So when I started to study what Console.Write and Console.WriteLine did, there are a couple key things I wanted to know. One is I want to know how to consistently type it so I didn't have to worry about it yelling at me with on the whole syntax thing. And so I made sure to observe that it's like, all right, the first word console is uppercase, the second word is always uppercase, and they are split by this period. Later on, I would learn this is called the dot operator, but I just wanted to make sure that when I typed it, I didn't accidentally type the wrong thing or accidentally forget to put the dot. So I practice having console.write. And with IntelliSense, it definitely makes it easier, but I could also do this now on a using just Notepad or something. It's just becomes muscle memory. So I knew this was going to work. It's yelling at me right now because it says there's no overload. When I was first beginning, I didn't know what this means. It didn't really matter so much. I just knew that this was right and that I needed to put something in between here. And so I need to figure out now what that was that I was putting in between here. So I would test it out. It's like, all right, well, let's just try the word test and run. Oh, well, test displays. All right, so let's try it out. My name is Will. Run. All right, so I know anything I now put inside these parentheses is going to display to our console application. Here I'm using .NET Fiddle, so I can see it right away. I'm like, all right, well, this makes sense. Well, we have something else here too called Console.WriteLine. They sound pretty much the same, and I'm thinking in my head, well, maybe these two things kind of do the same thing. Well, let's test it out. I know here in Console.Write that if I put something in these parentheses, it'll print out on screen. So let's try it over here. We got some more parentheses. I'm just going to comment this one out. Or we'll leave it for now. I'm going to go ahead and run it. Oh, well, yeah. I now know with Console.Write and Console.WriteLine, the purpose of these is just to display to the screen. Seems simple enough, but when you're first getting into it, it can be kind of confusing because you're used to just being able to say things or just print things. Now we have another step. We have to use Console.Write or Console.WriteLine, but again, this will become second nature to you. So far so good. I know I can type Console.Write and Console.WriteLine. I know if I put things in parentheses that it will display to my screen and I as the user will be able to see that. But now I notice here is like, well, this is I think is my first one, and what's going on here? Is this my second one? I'm not sure. Why is it all on the same line? And so it probably has something to do with the fact that these are two different methods. So what I would do is I'm going to change something. I'm going to remove this and I will place it above and I will see what happens. If I run it, I now notice it's on two separate lines. So without going to documentation or anything, I'm just kind of inferring that, oh, right line will automatically move it to the next line. Well, in order to make sure this is how it works, I'm going to paste again and I'm going to run it. Well, now it's happening 3 times and they're each on a separate line. So to me, this kind of validates that dot right line is going to move, is going to print this, the next sentence on the next line. So now I have that in my head. Dot right line will display a line and then go to the next line. Well, then what exactly is happening with this right? I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it and run it. Oh, well, now they're both on the same line. So this seems like a key change. If I run my code, I can see it runs together. So what's probably happening here is that it's not going to the next line. What happens if I put a space here and I run it? Oh, okay. So this space is just this space here. This is how I tend to learn anything, and it seems pretty simplified, but that's because it is. All I ever want to do is find out what one specific thing is doing before I move forward, because once I have a grasp on that, that gives me a foundation to return back to. Like, all right, if all my code's breaking, at least I know how console.writeline works, and at least I know how console.write works. And this has been my process through many years of programming by this point. I will think of something I want to test. Does it work like this? How can I break it? Speaking of breaking, can I do Console.WriteLine without something in it? If I test this out, looks like I can. it looks like there's 2 additional spaces above here. So that means it will just create a new line. Well, that's fantastic to know. Do I get the same effect if I do this with Console.Write? Doesn't look like it. It looks like I'm getting some errors. No overload for write takes 0 arguments. So what this probably means is with Console.WriteLine, I do not need to have a string inside of there, inside of these parentheses, but I need to have something in Console.Write. So within just a couple minutes, I've already learned so much about what console does, what console.writeline.write does, my different options. And this is how I tend to study things. I play around, I break them, I figure out what's going on. So that way, if my code ever breaks in the future, I have the space to come back to, and I know I can keep working from there.